Joeri, the magic sauce. Welcome to the
Hello.
show.
Thank you for having me, Miriam.
I am delighted. It's been years, I guess, that I've been following your content. And it's a week ago that I learned that you're actually Dutch.
It was amazing because you thought I was Australian, I think.
Yes.
And I was like, of all the accents that I do, Australian is not my best one.
It just may be the sign that I haven't really paid attention while listening to your YouTube videos.
It's okay.
Well, let's not talk about accents, but let's talk about facilitation and
Wonderful.
facilitation business and YouTube. And when did you start calling yourself a facilitator?
I don't think I ever did. I don't think I ever started calling myself a facilitator. I learned at one point when I worked in a small company in Beijing, we had consultants who facilitated as part of the consulting process. And then I learned the Mandarin words for that because I used to be an interpreter translator Mandarin. So I used to do all my work in Mandarin. And then I learned the difference between, let's say, a trainer versus a coach versus a facilitator. And now there's a lot of overlap. But I always liked facilitator the best, I guess, because I didn't really want to be called a trainer because I didn't do that much training. Also not a consultant that has a bit of a load. I thought facilitator kind of works. Although I don't think I've ever deliberately called myself a facilitator. I think it's just the box you fit in at some point.
So the only label that I did perceive on your forehead is the magic sauce.
Fantastic. That's all you need.
So what's the story of the magic sauce?
The magic sauce is very simple. We, as I always say, because it's not just me, it's a group of friends I work with and I've been working with for over 10 years. We're very good at getting people to create, build, and share better ideas. Now, years ago, I would have told you that I'm an innovation catalyst or innovation consultancy, but the word innovation is a bit overused and has been overused for many, many years. It can confuse people. So what does that mean? Does it mean you invest in tech? Are you marketing? Are you branding? Are you agency? So I just started going like, look, at the end of the day, we're very good at using a collective of creative brains to solve, in this case, business challenges. I think it can be applied everywhere, but that's what it is. The magic sauce is just a cool name that we picked. I've always worked for companies with funny names, just coincidentally. I worked for a company called I Will Not Complain. I worked for a company called What If Innovation. A friend of mine runs a business called Propellerfish. Another friend of mine has a business called The Genius Box. So we like to pick funky names. And the magic sauce.
I should hire you. Was never done before.
That's also cool names. I like cool names. And Never Done Before is a brilliant title for not only for the conference, I think for books. I think you could do a lot with that, which you already are doing so well. The magic sauce just started off as I always tell people, look, when I work with clients, I typically work with big business. I usually say, look, we're not here to change your entire business. We're not a McKinsey. We don't do big overhauls. What we do is we sprinkle a bit of magic sauce on your creative projects. Right. So if you have a couple of people come together and you always come up with the same old strategy, you might want to add a bit of magic sauce. You want to come up with some different ideas because the agencies are just a bit tired. You've had them on retainer for 5 years and they're just not creating anything new. You want to add some magic sauce. Maybe you've got a bunch of ideas, but you don't know what to do with them because at the end of the day, ideas are easy to get to, but what do you do with them? And they all need a bit of pizzazz. You'll need a bit of magic sauce. That's all it is. We're just like a little hot sauce that we spice stuff up.
Nice. So what are the ingredients of the magic sauce?
It's a good question. Somebody asked me this the other day because I'm working on a website, which nobody's going to look at, but I know you need a website.
Do you?
I'm going to make this up on the spot. I think it is a very diverse group of people with very diverse interests and very diverse experiences. That is definitely at the heart of what we do. I know the most random people, and those people often know very random people. I'm the guy that goes, somebody goes, hey, do you know an astrophysicist? I don't, but I probably know people who do. I've got that random kind of network. And from that network, I pull so many insights and so many ideas. So I think a big part of the magic sauce is having access to a diverse group of people, ages, genders, lifestyles, experience, business, industries, etc. And then I think the other one is, go for it.
Asking them the right questions.
Asking them the right questions, that's a good one. I don't think there are any right questions. I think it's just having that incessant need to just dig a bit deeper and maybe even get a bit uncomfortable because most of the solutions don't lie at the surface. They lie elsewhere, or the roots to the problem don't lie on the surface. So not even the right question, just asking questions to probe and and being very comfortable not knowing where it goes. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the big corporations and organizations and governments around the world, the big machines, they're very good at what they do. They're also very good at being organized, on the outside at least. What that then means is that the moment they need to deviate from that, it gets very uncomfortable. Like, where do you put your investments? What technology do you invest in? Everybody wants innovation. It's a nice word, right? We all want the billion-dollar idea, the new technology, the new platform. But the road to get there is always murky and is always a lot more rocky than people think. And I think one of the things where we're very comfortable, so we're very comfortable in murky waters. Where they get uncomfortable, we're very much like, okay, let's explore. We've been in these murky waters before. We don't have all the answers, but let's probe and let's find out. We just do it a bit quicker than most others.
I would like to connect what you just said with something that you said earlier, that innovation is just a word that is too hyped, and so you stopped using it.
Yeah.
So what I hear is everyone wanted to have innovation consultants, wanted to be innovative. And then I hear now that there's some companies that need to be innovative because something, maybe their market is disrupting.
Yeah.
And I would assume that if someone calls you, you have to be very quick in distinguishing, do they want innovation because they want a funky label, or do they need innovation? And hence you can really provide the service. Is this correct? And how would you distinguish the two?
I don't think it's a matter of correct or incorrect. I think it depends on the company. So again, context here is big business. Just think big business. I work with several ones, but my main target group is usually big business that have an innovation agenda and are willing to invest in that. They need something new. They need something different. It's either to solve an existing problem or it's to maybe rethink their business model because the current business model is being disrupted by changes or COVID or competitors. It's usually something like that. They need something new and something different. Very often when they start, they love the results. So they'll always say, the bigger the better. Blue sky, anything is in. That's rarely the case. And again, this is my experience. Maybe there are businesses out there that do it. And we know a couple of names, which everybody always refers to, that handful of companies that do the big ballsy things that are a bit further out there. But the reality is most organizations don't have the appetite. They don't have the appetite for the risk. They're not willing to really invest in it. They know they need to, but because there's a constant a bit of investment, maybe not, maybe yes, maybe not, and overanalyzing, it's not that often that they really go big on any kind of really big innovation. So where does that leave you then? If you are an organization and you do have challenges or you do need to grow and reshape the way you work, well, a lot of these solutions realistically are probably not that big and they're a bit closer to home. And there's nothing wrong with that. Most big business are best off making smaller bets, more structured, smaller bets, rather than these big bets that could cost them their brand or could cost them a lot of the revenue, etc. So if it's just we just want the biggest ideas, we just want the biggest innovations, for many it's just a pipe dream because they're not really set up for that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think often the bigger the organization is, the smaller steps work better. Again, this is my experience and my just context here. Most of my experience has been in Asia. I have worked across the world, but most of it has been in Asia. But I work with international business.
And it makes total sense to me because a big organization is a big ship.
Yeah.
And just the information campaign and the change campaign that would be needed to drive a big innovation leads to chaos by definition. And there've been research on change processes that work or fail. And they've shown that the best change processes, the most successful ones, are those who emphasize constantly what stays the same.
Yeah. Everybody loves change as long as everything stays exactly the same. So what do you do then?
The change that we decide on ourselves. I love to change whatever I want to change about myself, but don't tell me what to change.
Yeah, fair enough. But that's the reality, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think very often innovation or fresh ideas or new thinking can come at a departmental level. Like, why does it always have to be this big campaign which involves the global leadership? And I've seen this before where somebody wants to do something big. It's kind of, they want to fly under the radar, but then it gets a little bit too big, too many people get involved, and all of a sudden everybody needs to have a say in it. And then it goes back to being something that's kind of lame and kind of not that interesting because, yeah, let's go from a raspberry cookie to a strawberry cookie. Ooh, that's a big change. maybe for them it is, I don't know about that, but I do see the real change in most cases. I see the real change happening at quite a low level and small empowered teams, little things that they can do, little bits of budget, create a quick win over here. Don't shout about it. Because very often innovation is this, at least in Asia, it's this big town hall parade and a big PR campaign. It doesn't always have to be that way. Just do something very clever, even if that means, I'll give you an example. One of the companies I worked for years ago was an Australian company, quite conservative industry. And the CEO got up and asked the entire top of the global leadership. He just basically goes, look, rather than us complicating all this innovation stuff, why don't you just write down all the little things that are getting in the way of us doing a kick-ass job, from suppliers to structures to communication. Just write all that stuff down. Let's just start picking off some of these things, however small they are. Yeah. Is that going to create big change? Maybe yes, maybe no.
Eventually.
But at least it gets you started, because that's the other big barrier, is this it's scary if it's so big, so it kind of stifles people and they think it needs to be right, and innovation is not right. It's by definition something that's a bit more risky. So if it's a bit more risky, why would you put all your money on it? Do something very small and very quick, rather than mobilize an entire organization and make like a massive restructuring to your factory where you don't even know whether that's going to work.
And then this circles back to my earlier question: to what extent is innovation just a label you want to put out there? Oh, we're such an innovative company, and that's why we're driving the big innovation and we're hiring the innovation consultants. Whereas we're just in for the little innovation that might have a huge impact, but you cannot sell it. So it's less sexy.
Yes, I think it is. First of all, I think a lot of work gets outsourced. I was talking to someone the other day who works with a lot of government organizations. He says a lot of them in the governments don't actually do that much. They push a bit of an agenda around and don't actually get involved that much. But that's why they have external partners to do the actual work. And then these external partners need to manage the politics and all these things. It's kind of the same with kind of the work that I do as well. It's never easily done. It's often handed off to somebody on the outside. I don't think it has to be that way, by the way. I think there's a lot of opportunity for business to be a bit more creative. And that's why I moved away from innovation. Maybe innovation is too much of a load. It's too much of it's got to be big. I'd rather talk about kind of little creative ways. Let's launch something. Okay. Can we launch something tomorrow? Oh, no, we need to do it really big. No, you don't have to. Let's just do little things every day, which over time will get you to be more creative, so you can be more responsive to clients' needs, so you can rethink the way you're spending, so you can save on whatever. I just worked on a packaging project, which is all about how do you save money on packaging, which is not only good for our bottom line, good to reduce the cost, but also good for the environment, like those kind of things. And they're more smaller things people can do in the long run, rather than these big lofty campaigns. And I do think you need people in the business who think big, because at the end of the day, if at the leadership level nobody has the willingness to engage in slower and bigger thinking, it's going to be very hard to move forward, because then I think you're just always focusing just on the status quo. I have not run a big business, so I don't know about that, but this is basically for what I've seen left to right. So small incremental steps, nothing wrong with that. And again, the bigger the players, most of the time, the bigger the players, don't go for the big lofty stuff. Like keep it simple.
And the vision can be big, and the steps to it can be small. Yeah. And what role does the tool of workshops play? Because when I think of big organizational change, I think of town halls, and then we have world cafes and we have workshops, and it's all kind of creative and messy. And when I hear small incremental steps, I hear small meetings and a consultant with a plan. So no workshops. So workshops, yes or no, or in which case?
So workshop to me is just another word for meeting. I think the overall word is meeting. People come together to do something, right? And I like the word workshop, because I can then go, just so you know, this is not a meeting where you sit back. This is a workshop. You're going to work. And the way I describe it is, and the way I describe it is, it will work a bit like this. I'll tell them, look, we're here as kind of external facilitators. or I shouldn't even say external facilitators. We're just people facilitating. That's why I said I don't really think I call myself a facilitator per se. I facilitate as part of what we do. But I say as externals, like our role is to bring the music, set up the dance floor, make sure the snacks are good. It's up to you. It's up to you whether you have a good time or not. Like, I used to be a lot more, everybody needs to be involved. I'm like, no, I only want the right people there. So that's first of all. So I want them to work, and I communicate that as clearly as possible beforehand. This is not a sit back session where we do these things. So let's talk about an innovation project. No, let's talk about an ideas project. You have a new idea, you want to get through the business, whatever that is. You will need certain meetings. In my work, we typically have 4 kinds of get-togethers. If we get together around the people paying for it and people leading it to go, what do you want? Okay, you want ideas. Ideas for what? Why do you want them now? What have you done before? What's your budget? So let's say we give you an idea. What's going to happen then? That's all kind of the first part. Scoping, I call that. Just for us to learn, like, what's going on, what do you want? Then once we have that, we might have a couple of get-togethers or workshops around learning about the challenge of what we want. So we might bring in some inspiration. We might do a bit of reading. I might send somebody a video to do for themselves before we get together. It might be some interviews. It might be taking part in a survey, whatever it is. This is all about learning. Then once we kind of learn a bit, we come up with some potential ideas into solutions. I say ideas into solutions because ideas you can generate 1,000 in 10 minutes. Then from that, hopefully you don't walk away with 1,000 ideas, because you don't need 1,000 ideas. What you want to do is quickly cluster and filter and get rid until you, let's say, have 10, 15 potential solutions. That will be kind of a get together. So we kind of see what we have. We package them into something we can go and pitch. And then last kind of a workshop or get together could be around pitching the ideas and kind of planning the route to reality. So what's going to happen now? What kind of budget do we need? Who's going to sign this off? And then you might have workshops or like little sessions afterwards to help them maybe mentor, kind of push the project forward. But we rarely get brought in for execution. And I think they should do that more, in all fairness, but usually people think they are good at execution, which is not necessarily, but we like to leave them at a point where we almost tell them, here's how you do it. We have a lot of clarity. It's not just an idea on a piece of paper, like it's been worked up and here's why, and here's how we're going to test it, and here's a plan for the next 3 months, and here's a prototype, that kind of thing.
And thank you for walking us through that. I think that's very helpful. And us, yeah. The 2 of us and all the audience.
And all the other people. Hello, people out there, by the way.
Yeah. And I think the real work starts after the workshop, right? So usually after you've left. And you just mentioned that you're rarely involved in the execution. To what extent, and we talked about this a little bit before we pressed the record button, to what extent is it actually credible or viable to have a facilitator or consultant who does not know about the execution and the implementation and cannot warn the group about, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but most probably maybe we need to play it smaller, because you might not know what's happening after you left.
So I'll answer that in 2 different ways. First, I'll give you a little story to highlight this. We worked on something, I say we, and I work with a group of friends. When we talk to clients, we should say we're associates, because it sounds more clever than a group of friends. Because it sounds too loose. It sounds like you're just a bunch of backslapping buddy freelancers in the bar. So we say we're associates. It's the same thing. But I work with a group of people, and a couple of years ago, we worked on a project, and long story short, they wanted something big. They wanted something that was a bit out there. So we came up with a solution, and we helped them build a store, a physical store, a new concept store. We were all this while we got started, from the time we got started, we were talking to what I like to call the horse's mouth, the person who will sign off and say yay or nay. It might be one, might be more. Even in a group of people, there's usually one whose opinion will weigh a little bit more, depending how they're structured. So that's good, because we're not talking to somebody 3 steps down and the information gets lost left and right. Talk to the right person. This guy's, he's got the budget, it's his business. Great. So we're like 90% in. We now have an architect, as in a friend of ours, an architect who's now building these stores, who's buying materials to set up that store. One bigger boss comes in we didn't know about. There was somebody in another country who was like 1 step bigger, which we did not know about. And it became a political shit show. Basically, it became a, how dare you do this behind my back? I was not involved. I wasn't privy to this conversation. So it's not my idea. So now I'm just going to block everything. And long story short, the person we were talking to left the organization within about 2 months or something there clearly was related to that project. And the project just got canned. That's it, over. So yes, we had the right strategy. We had the great ideas. We had a clear brand proposition. We had some amazing ideas how to bring this to life. We had everything worked out, how to lay out the store, what it would look like, how the branding would be, how you're going to talk, we had everything. We had tech partners already, how to do cashless, what do you call it, cashless payment system, everything in there. Done. Didn't go anywhere. So you can have the best idea and even the best execution plan with prototypes that have been tested. Like, here's why we think this idea is going to work. Here's why we need to invest money in it, and it can still go wrong. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. The only way you can do something about that is if you hold that budget, and we don't. As an external person, there's always a limit to how much you can do. And a couple of years ago, that became very clear to me, and it almost dissuaded me from doing this work. I was like, okay, so I can't do this work because there is no way I can have that influence. And then I realized, you know what, that's not completely true. You can still give a wheel a spin in the right direction, right? You can still make sure that some of the bases are covered. For instance, very often, people think the problem is here. I'm pointing with my right hand. And then just through a conversation, you found out actually there's a whole different thing here on the left, which hasn't even been considered. Is that worth spending time on with somebody who's external, who may ask different questions? I think so. Now, when it comes to the credibility, how much credibility do you have? I have another story for you because I like storytelling. Similar kind of project, the number twos of the business, so not the big boss, not the head honcho, the fromage grande, as I call that, but the second ones in line, C-suite, brought us in to help them with a specific challenge. And as we started working, we heard from them that their big boss, who's a Russian gentleman, didn't like external people. This is all nonsense. You're wasting your money, you're wasting time. And as part of working on this project, I said, well, before we get started, I would like to talk to a couple of people in your business. So part of what we often do with these projects is to at least talk to a few people so we kind of know. I'll ask something really simple, like, how do you get ideas for your business? You have an idea, what happens? Is there a suggestion box? Does it go to HR? Who owns innovation? Who's got the money? Is it HR? Is it marketing? Is it product? Is it tech? Is it CEO? I need to know those things. So we had a conversation, and I had a conversation with this gentleman. I'll never forget this. I had a conversation with this gentleman. And Russians can be quite direct, but I'm Dutch and I'm also quite direct, so that helps.
I was about to say that.
Miriam knows that. So we got on a call. I was living in Singapore. We got on a call, and he basically off the bat said, look, I want to be very clear. If you guys think you can walk into my business and tell me how to run my business, you must be drunk, because I've been in this business for 27 years. I'm an expert. I'm a scientist. I'm this. What do you know about my business? And I said, I've got some good news for you. I said, first of all, you're absolutely right. I can't. Number two, I'm not a consultant. I'm not here to, then I stay away from the word consultant. I said, look, I don't know nothing about your industry. You're the expert. I'm not going to tell you how to run your business. You've clearly been doing a great job for the last so many years. That's why you're still around. I said, well, we're good at what might be interesting for you. And you tell me if we're not interested, let's just hang up. Let's both go our ways. I said, what I think we can add to the table is, one, we'll ask questions which you've stopped asking. Because I don't know your business. I'll look at it with my clever friends and we go, why do you do that? And they go, well, that's part of our standard operating procedures. But it doesn't make any sense because there's new technology, right? So we ask questions. We ask really what we like to call very naive questions, very dumb questions. Like, kids, why do you do this? And why is that over there? And who's this? And why is that, right? That can be very insightful, right? Because very often the clients we work with have, and myself included, we all have a very, very deep understanding of our field if we've done it long enough, but usually also a bit narrow, right? And that's then the second point. So the first one is asking questions. Two, the other one is that I've worked with different industries. I don't know your business. I don't know the technicality of your business. That's right. I have worked with X amount of companies. The problem that you have, we've seen that 3-4 times. So let me tell you what we did 2 years ago in Brazil with company that, right? And I think he kind of then went like, okay, yeah, fair enough, good point. So I'm not going to walk in anybody and go like, let me tell you how to run your business, how you get ideas to. I can tell you what other people have done well and what they've not done well based on experience, based on what I've read and seen and heard. There's only so much you can do. That was a bit long answer, but that's kind of how I see it. So I still try to make a positive an impact as possible, which I think you can, but there's a limit. At some point, it's theirs. Like it's their baby, not mine.
And so thank you for taking the time and for telling stories. We love stories. And what I hear is that still, I mean, these stories teach us the most, right? So next time it might be just the awareness or to clarify, okay, are you really the person who would take the final decision?
Yeah.
Or to do a kind of pre-mortem. How can we fail this project, although it seems so bulletproof? So I think once you've run into such a situation that you couldn't even imagine before. I mean, who thinks that there might be the boss of the boss appearing from nowhere that nobody ever mentioned?
But it happens,
could kill
right?
the project, right? Next time you ask.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anybody here? But in this case, the reason I tell that story, because we did ask, and this guy was like, I make the final, because that's one thing we do. Like, who's got the final say? Who else do we need to consider? Is there anybody in your business that will be for or against that might get in? It might be budget. It might just be time and resources, right? Who's going to be for this? Who's going to be against this? Who do we need to consider? There's nothing there. He made it seem like he was the guy. So he
got fired.
He made the. I don't know whether he got fired. That would be presumptuous, but I know that he left. So he either left on his own terms. I don't know about that, but I do know that stuff like that happens, and you don't always see that coming. Yeah. I've worked on big banking, like great ideas, great strategy, it was awesome. Worked with their entire teams. A big lesson I learned then, like afterwards, we found out they didn't want to put any of their budget behind actually taking these ideas forward. So now one of the first questions we go is, okay, you want some ideas for whatever, your restaurant or your oil and gas business, whatever it is. You go, okay, so once we have a couple of ideas, do you have any budget? Because we need to test these things over a couple of weeks and we need to test these with consumers. You don't just launch something in the market and kind of go, ta-da, let's hope it works. Not if you're a multi-billion-dollar industry. So that's what I ask now. And I make it sound as if I told somebody this the other day. I said, I make it sound as if I have all the answers. I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm a slow learner. Like once I learn stuff, it usually locks in pretty quickly. But I've learned so many things, just the embarrassing, hard, painful way. But you have to, right? You're just not credible until you made a couple of miles and you got some battle scars and stories.
I heard this wonderful quote the other day that if you look at people who are more successful than you are, they just failed more often.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep going. I don't care that much. That's the other one. Like I don't, make mistakes. Make them well then. Don't half-ass it. Go for the big mistakes then, Say something sometimes where you go, either I'm going to sound like a genius in this room or everybody's going to think I'm an idiot and they'll never work with me. I know what I've done most of the time. And it hasn't always worked that way. It didn't always work that way, but sometimes it's blown up in my face. But
can you recall your biggest mistake?
It's all learning, isn't it, Miriam? Is that what you're supposed to say? I've made a lot of mistakes. I do know one time I was a little bit too direct, and I was in Germany, interestingly. I don't know whether I told you this last time. I was working with a traditional German company, and they were lovely people. And we were there to work on a very specific brief, and kind of after having worked with them for over a couple of weeks, because these projects can take time, and getting back to workshops. It's not a 6-week workshop. Yeah, it's like a dip in a bit on Monday. We go off, do a bit, and then we come back, etc. And at the end, the CEO of the company, the founder of the company, and founder and CEO of the company, asked us. I was together with a engineer from Berlin, a lovely young guy, and we were there together. And he asked both of us. He said, "Look, you've worked with us for a couple of weeks now. You've kind of seen where we work. You've seen kind of how we operate. What do you think are our biggest challenges to innovation?" And my first response was, I can't really tell you because that's not what we looked at. We were looking at very specific things. So I haven't really looked at that. And, it's just my opinion. I don't know. And he said in German, he said, no, just say it. Just say what you just give us a vibe check. I'm like, okay. I said, why don't you look around the room? I said, all of you are white. You're all male. You're all past 55. Outside, and I'm standing in a room, I know where we were in Berlin. I said, outside, all I see is Audis, BMWs, and Mercedes. So we all drive the same cars. During the breaks, I heard you talk about where you go on vacation, which is mostly the same places. Your kids have gone to the same school. You kind of dress the same. You have all these hair, this and Dr. Das and this and this. Why would anybody who is young and fresh and kind of cool, upcoming, work for you guys? And I know that was super direct, and I probably is very out of line, but anybody who knows me a little bit, I'm that guy that says that. And I wasn't being mean. I was super genuine. I said, a lot of people, a lot of organizations where there's a lot of kind of a strong hierarchy and things. Yeah, you breed a culture where nobody really dares to challenge, the old boys, and maybe not just boys. It doesn't have to be men, by the way, but often like senior leadership, and it doesn't get challenged. And that's the organization. You smell like that. You smell like conservative. You smell like was gut ist, soll man nicht ändern. What is good should not be changed or challenged. That's what you sound like. I might be wrong, but you asked me for my opinion, and that's going to be very hard for you to draw on young talent. Anyway, that's what I thought. Now, this guy himself, he was a bit like, thanks. I asked for that. It's a bit raw, but dankeschön. But half that room was like, you just shut up, because I think a lot of them were like, look, I've got 3 more years on this clock here. Don't rock the boat. Like 3 more years and I'm out of here. So we don't really want to change stuff. Don't be, what are you doing? Now, it was a bit of that. I don't think there was a mistake. I think that was a bit, I don't know, maybe somebody might say it's not very diplomatic, but I'm not very diplomatic anyway.
So I assume you did not win the gig?
Oh, we are already at the end of the project, interestingly.
Okay.
And I'll tell you something better. And we didn't do it because I don't have enough experience there. The founder and CEO himself asked whether we were interested in doing culture work with them, whether we wanted to work on their culture. I said no, because that's not my expertise. But then we hooked him up with other people who are more skilled in that, because I'm not one to talk about culture and stuff like that. I don't know enough about that. So we said no, but that was interesting. I think he liked us. I think he liked what we did.
And I must say, I love the story, although it would not pass my biggest mistake test, but that's good enough.
I have heaps. When I think of one, I'll let you know. I'll send you an email. Got heaps.
Instead, I always ask the question, and I have a guess of what your answer will be, and I still ask it: what makes a workshop fail?
It's a good question. Thank you for saying that before, because I thought about that for a long time. Now, of course, there's a million obvious ones, because your audience are smart and experienced people. If you're listening to this, you're a smart and experienced person, and I'm sure you can think of a million reasons why they work. So I want to change that answer a little bit. I want to elevate this a little bit. I don't think it is the workshop per se. I've seen amazing workshops with skilled, experienced, passionate facilitators. Go for it. What do you want to say?
I ask what makes a workshop fail, not what makes a workshop work, right? Just to make it clear.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So what makes a workshop fail? I think there's many different, I'm sure there's many different people. Do you want me to do that again, by the way, the answer?
Yeah, Gordon, just cut that out. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Danke, Gordon. Thank you, Gordon. I don't know whether you speak German, but that's thank you. No. Anyway, gracias. Thank you. Spasiba. Konnichiwa. Anyway.
Should I just repeat the question?
Ask question again, yeah.
Okay. And now I'm very curious. What do you think makes a workshop fail?
Well, there's many reasons why workshops can fail, and you have a smart and experienced audience, and I'm sure your smart and experienced audience knows a million different reasons why they fail. I want to change the answer a little bit by saying I've seen great workshops. I've seen with great facilitation, good tools, well planned, etc. But the workshop wasn't the right thing to do. In the bigger scheme, what was going on, we did not need a workshop. I think that's where they often fail. It's often not the people in itself, because I know lots of facilitators, they're very good at what they do. They know their skills, they know their expertise, they have examples, they can bring things out. The reason they fail, I don't think often is the participants or the facilitator. It's just that somebody made a decision to do a workshop at the wrong time when there was no need for one. And then it turns into a complete waste of time. Again, I can give you other examples of how somebody wasn't an active listener and didn't have the right. I get all that. But I think in many cases, we should stop doing that many workshops, because I think we have too many workshops. People are too busy. And that's why they fail, if that kind of makes any sense.
Thank you. You just won my heart. Literally put on the YouTube video if you to understand.
Hearts,
Yeah.
hearts.
Yes, lots of hearts. And thank you for saying that. Because I think something that I've considered my biggest failure since a long time was exactly for that reason, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But actually, it resulted into an entire failed project. I mean, at the end of the day, it was great because something that was planned like a project or several workshops ended up to be just one workshop and some preparation calls. So I basically earned 20K for a 2 hours workshop, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But it was too early. People were not aligned. So nothing happened afterwards.
Yeah.
And the project was just closed.
Yeah. Even if the workshop was great.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the workshop.
I agree.
And so what is your process to avoid that?
Stop leading with workshops. If you facilitate, and again, I have learned this. This is not like, oh, look at me being clever. I've learned this the hard way. Stop leading with workshops. The answer is not the workshop. The workshop is a way to get somewhere. Find out what that somewhere is. And then maybe it's a workshop, maybe it's not. I send videos half the time where people say, can you come and give us a couple of tools? I'm like, why don't I just send you a 5-minute YouTube video? You can do this on WhatsApp by yourself. We don't have to get another workshop together, because right now in a digital world, I mean, it's cool, man. I mean, I do stuff on Zoom, on Teams, etc. But like a couple of months ago, I got somebody in South Africa, somebody in the Philippines. That's a couple of hours time difference. For one is really early in the day, the other one's late in the day, or in Australia, I think was the latest time zone. It takes a lot out of people. And if it's the wrong time or it's the wrong thing to do, you're not only wasting resources and energy. I think what you can do is you create cynicism, because you get into enough workshops, which are kind of a waste of time, and people will go, why am I even here? And then just get a bad name. I've got a friend of mine who says the moment he gets an invite to a workshop, he automatically declines. Not even knowing what it's for. He just goes like, I just decline because workshops are stupid. That's what you get. But the reality is there's a time and a place to meet with the right people at the right time with the right agenda. Then, only then do you start thinking about facilitate. How do we facilitate this? Too many people start with, what can we facilitate? It's the whole, what is it again? The hammer and the nail. If all you have is a hammer, all you see is nails kind of thing. It's a bit like that. Too many people lead with, we need to do a workshop. So when I'll give you one example. The big difference is when somebody comes to you, let's say that you run a facilitation business or you're a freelancer, I don't care what you are, but facilitation is part of what you do. And somebody comes to you and asks you, here's two very different briefs. One person comes to you and says, hi, we're looking for somebody to facilitate a meeting. So we have a workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop with 25 people with the goal to save money on, with the goal to increase sales of our products, right? That's the goal. So we want a 3-hour workshop on that day in this place with so many people, with the goal is to come up with ways to increase our sales. Okay. Just think about that for a second. How much would that be worth? How much can you charge for a 3-hour workshop to increase sales? Okay, cool. You have a number in mind. Now flip that around. Another example is where somebody says, look, we need to increase our sales. And you go back and say, what would it be worth to use if we could increase your sales by 5%? Now, if you're the local fish and chip shops here, 5%, maybe not that much. If you are a massive company, 5% on a $100 million bottom line, that's a lot. Yeah. How does that change? That changes everything, because maybe the solution is a workshop. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just you throwing in a clever idea, which you can tell their engineers to do this and this and this. It completely changed it. First of all, you can charge more for the second because it's got more value. But the moment you start the conversation with, we need a workshop, you're already starting with the how. Forget about the how. Learn about the what and the why first. Once you know those things, then you can go, is it even the right time? Do we even need a workshop? And then, okay, fine. Let's say you do need a workshop. Who's going to come? Does it have to be a day? Don't get your clients to tell you that. I don't let my clients tell me that stuff at all. I'll tell you how long you need. Together, I'm being a bit mean now, but I mean, it's very dangerous to start with the how already and then kind of work back. No, forget about the how.
I love it, because you basically lead, as you say, from you're priming the client, the potential client, to look at the value that you're creating. And then I would even go further and ask them, okay, instead of trying to increase sales, because you cannot force the cow to drink, right?
Yeah.
You can only bring it to the water. to the water pond. So let's talk about how to increase the profit, because then we can also look at the cost sides, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, so thank you for bringing that up.
I wonder too. I wonder all the time. What do you wonder about? Miriam, tell me.
Are you making fun of my English?
Not at all. I love the word wonder. There you go. I'm going to stop this a bit. And it's getting very dark. Sorry, there you go. Is that better? 3, 2, 1. And we can start again. You wonder.
I wonder where the issue comes from that many facilitators lead client conversations with a workshop as their product instead of, so is it because they are calling themselves facilitators and therefore basically limiting in the first place the products that they're selling? So they see a workshop as a solution for everything because that's what they do, and then it's basically a confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Or is it that some companies might actually not really look for a solution, but look for the warm glow? Oh, workshop is nice. We can say that we did our best and then we didn't come up with a solution, or we have so many ideas, and then kind of we can tell our organization and the world that we tried our best and everyone was included. Everyone wants to be included. And then at the end of the day, we tried our best. It wasn't our fault. We hired the wrong facilitator.
We hired the best one. We hired Miriam. No, I think it's both. Yes, if what you sell is workshops, then that's what you're going to see. So if somebody says, "Hey, I'm not feeling connected to my team. Let's do a workshop," right? You can just throw a workshop into anything if that's what you sell. And that's why I'm going to say something a bit provocative, which might upset a couple of people. Selling workshops is easy. It's easier. It's you already have a framework. It's a bit, you don't have that much accountability. It's kind of, you've done the workshop, great. So we've done 2 activities, we've done a model. If it's training, everybody's learned something, cool. I would push harder for, so what are the bigger results, the business results, or the bigger impact? The flip side of what you said is absolutely true as well. Yes, let's run a couple of workshops so we all look like we did something, and there's a time and a place for that. I really avoid the second one, and the way you can avoid that one is a couple of things. I think you can quickly see by how much time and money they're spending on it. Again, if the conversation starts with, we want a workshop, I kind of know who I'm talking to already. If it is a bigger business challenge, it just, you can charge more for that. It's just a bit more meaty. And the other one is, like I said before, great. So we have a couple of ideas. What's going to happen afterwards? What are you going to do with the strategy? Oh, we just want you to put it in a PDF file and email it to us. No, I'm not going to do that. I want to make sure that something actually comes out of this, because it also helps me if we get to some results. It's going to help you. It's going to help me as well, because I don't want to be known as the guy, who came in with a lot of hot air. Yeah, we had a great time. We got a nice mug. We had some fun games. What came out of it? Absolutely nothing. I don't want to be that guy. And I've been that guy. I've done the trainings that just didn't go anywhere, or the workshops that didn't go anywhere, the meetings that didn't go anywhere. And I've stopped doing that.
And I would challenge the didn't go anywhere. Maybe not as it was planned. And maybe this was the hidden agenda. But then I would invite them to just be blunt honest about it. If you want to have a good time, if you want to create some positive memories collectively, sure, we can do that. If you need to create this around a challenge, because networking and creating a good time is best around a common goal or a common challenge. But then let's be honest about it.
I agree. I think it's the most important thing we do in every project is the scoping, is the upfront bit. You can avoid so much by having a good conversation. And when I say good conversation, let me put this down a bit. I'll start this over again. It's very annoying. I basically have a light well, and I'm going to cover the light well, or else it's constant light, dark.
In your YouTube, I don't even see the difference. I only see.
But I cut between takes, and then you can see it. If it even change, if between a cut, if I just move that, everything will look different. You'll notice that. Your brain will right away. Anyway, this is something for a different day.
Gordon, one more cut, please.
You can cut this out. Gordon's fine. Gordon's a champ.
He is.
get back to your point, which you said about, so scoping. So I'll start there again. I would say the most important thing that we do in our work, when we work with clients, is the upfront bit, the upfront conversation. And when I say the upfront conversation, that is not an hour on a Zoom call where the client tells you that they want a 3-hour workshop. The upfront conversation, first of all, we call it scope. You can call it something else, like discovery, the scoping, whatever it is. Take time for that. Go slow. Like take time to read the room a bit. Take time to maybe have 2 meetings. Maybe you go in once, you kind of take a brief, you ask a couple of questions, you go away, you go, before we get to solutions, give us a couple of days, we'll come back with some follow-up questions. See what they look like when they say things. When they say we're very excited about that, do they actually mean that? So scoping is much more about going really into the nitty-gritty about what's your picture of success? Tell me about politics within your business. And if they go, we don't have politics, you say, bullshit, of course you do. The moment you have more than 3 people together, you're going to get some kind of hierarchy somewhere. It's fine. We just want to know what that is and who's going to be for and against. Have you tried something before? What resources do we have available? So we have a strategy. What kind of format do you want that in? How do you know where it's been a good idea? Who needs to be, like all those things, and take your time. So that alone, when done right, will save you most of the headache. Not everything, it will save you most of the headache. Guarantee you. But again, if you go into the conversation going, I need to sell a workshop, then you're not going to read that. And again, nothing wrong. Maybe what you do is a workshop, and maybe if a workshop, let's say the output is learning something, maybe a canned workshop, there's nothing wrong with that. There's workshops that are focused on a certain way of selling or marketing. Maybe that works. But the kind of work that we do, I think, you have to go beyond workshops. It can't just be workshops.
Yeah, makes total sense. And then before those who are building a business around workshops freak out, I would see 2 opportunities for that. One is to really go out and to build relationships to those who would rather call themselves consultants.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of value to consultants. And still they cannot do the job on their own, because usually they don't have all the answers. So to partner up with someone who's really good in facilitation, when the company actually decided, the leadership decided that they do want the workshop, then it's nice. And they might even get higher rates, because what I realize is that facilitators, most of the facilitators really suck in pricing.
Ooh. Oh, in pricing. Okay.
In pricing.
Why do you say that? Let's dig into that one, because I've got a lot of passion for this topic.
I have several reasons. One is it's usually the type of individual that cares too much. And if you care too much, then, or if you care too much and you love what you're doing, then you don't consider it as work, or you forget to realize that everything that you're doing is actually related to this project and should be counted as working time and hence be billed. Also that there's a lot of imposter going on. And finally, something that I explored recently with Matthew on a podcast is the uncertainty. So yes, we can sell a workshop. We can never sell a guarantee for anything to come out. So we are operating in this space of uncertainty. Yeah. Because we don't know. So you have to be very confident to say, okay, I guarantee you that I cannot guarantee you anything. And I still believe in the value. Yeah. And then finally, I think that many still are in the mindset of either charging by the hour, and then it would be the hour of a workshop, which doesn't make sense, or the day, which comes back to the same. And very rarely I've heard about the charging for the value, as you mentioned in your example. Think of 5% of increasing sales. What would it be worth to you? Yeah. So thinking, okay, what are the costs of having a team that is not collaborating? What are the costs of 1 or 2 team members burning out? Do you want to do something about that? And how much would this be worth? Yeah. And then we're talking very quickly about the hundred thousands of of value. And then you say, see, I only charge 10% of that.
Yeah. And then how do you measure that value? It can be very hard, particularly when it comes to innovation, because then people go, well, how are you going to measure the success, of something that's new and something that's different? You go, well, I can't.
Yeah.
And then, but again, it's not. I learned this the other day on the podcast. Blair Enns. Blair Enns is a great has run a creative business and talks a lot about the business of creativity. Absolute genius. I owe a lot of learning to him. I think one of the main things he says is, he says we're not in the business of telling you why you should hire us, because sometimes you get that feedback. Then you get that, why do you charge this, or how come you can charge that or command that price? That's it sounds like a good price. That's all he says. So if we're talking about a $10 million solution, if we can get you there, what if I take 5% of that? And again, it's up to clients to work with you or not. I don't think too often, I've done this in the past, I try to sell the workshop or sell me. Stop doing that. Maybe I'm not right. Maybe it's not a good time to get somebody in. That's okay. Focus on the solution again, rather than going, I need to sell a workshop. No, I want to help them get further faster. And if it makes sense for us to do so, awesome. If it's not, that's okay.
It's a little bit like in the, I almost said industry. No, like in dating, right? Nobody wants to.
It's been a while for me, Miriam. So tell me, what's it like?
I think this is something universal that never changes. You're not interested in someone who seems desperate.
Yeah.
Right? So the moment as a facilitator or any freelancer, you're desperate about selling something, nobody's going to hire you. Well,
focus on helping. Really focus on helping. And again, I've been there. I run a business. I've almost bankrupted twice my business. So I know what it's like to go, I need money coming in. And I fight really hard to go, how can I help them? It's a bit of a lofty phrase, but if you focus on that, it will make things a lot easier.
Serve and sell.
Yeah, find a way. But also be assertive enough to go, cool, I want to help you, but I'm not a charity. Here's what we start. Here's what we start with. And if they're not committed in the big thing, you go, fine, why don't we just do a small chunk first? And you decide whether you want to work with us or not.
Yeah. Another reason that just came to my mind, and this might then also be a backdoor into what you do on YouTube. I think one reason why many facilitators underprice is what in economics we would call the market for lemons.
Okay.
Where you don't, it comes from the used car market, where you have a bunch of used cars, and as a buyer, you don't know which car is of better quality and which car isn't. Right? And there's no way you can find out. So if you are lacking this information, then you wouldn't buy the higher end priced car because all the risk is on your end.
Yeah.
So those of higher quality, they exit the market. So at the end of the day, only the lemons, the shit quality is left. And I can imagine that also what you mentioned beforehand, that workshops very often still have quite a bad reputation. And this was actually the reason why I started the podcast in the first place.
Okay.
Like, I need to do something about the reputation of workshops.
Yeah.
And those who deliver very high quality workshops stop selling workshops, as you actually said, but doing something else, or started to create some different sort of signaling, either through certification or by building their own personal brand and actually showing what they can do through content creation. So my way of doing this is the podcast. Your way of doing that is YouTube videos.
Yep.
So I would be interested in two things. One, have you also observed that with the kind of differences in quality, that they have many, I'm sorry to say that there are many very bad facilitators out there.
Yeah.
That deliver very bad quality and put at risk actually an entire profession. Mm-hmm. So what to do about that? And if the answer is build your own kind of expert status, for instance, through videos, what would be your advice?
That is a great question, and I don't know exactly how to answer that one. Let me just unpack this a little bit. So first of all, like the quality of facilitation and what that can do to an entire profession. Unfortunately, facilitation is one of those things where there's very little. What do you say? There's very little certifications. I mean, they're like informal facilitation. You can pay an organization like the IAF who do great work in this. I think IAF is the biggest one, but I'm sure there's a couple of organizations, and there are standards, but it doesn't permeate everywhere. So basically anybody can call themselves a facilitator and just get going, right? And that can be quite harmful because it can create cynicism, etc. So that's one. I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think linking to the second question, the cool thing then is through YouTube or through the internet, you can see more examples. So I started creating videos because I got asked a lot of these things which I didn't want to do anymore and people didn't want to pay for. They were kind of too small to invest time in. They weren't profitable for me. I couldn't really charge. I was like, I want to work on bigger stuff. The reason I started creating videos is because people come to me and say, whatever, like, we want to do a brainstorm on Friday. We want some creative ideas for the Christmas party or whatever, like for the summer office party, whatever. And I'd be like, no, I can't, it's 3 hours. What am I going to charge for that? Right? Just a day, kind of. So what I started doing is started creating these videos. And now I go, you don't need to pay me for that. I've got videos that tell you exactly what to do before, during, and after that. They're really simple, bite-sized videos that tell you what to do before a brainstorm, during a brainstorm, and after a brainstorm. If you want more, then you give me a call. My minimum, which I start, is X. And just leave it with that. So you can get stuff for free. I've got a podcast. Well, I was working on a podcast. I need to do a season 2, but I have stuff for free. Use that for free. That's how I use it. So I use it purely as one to basically sift through the requests I get and kind of go, check out the YouTube video. It's free. Here's a link. Thank you. And call me back whenever you want something.
So basically you started the YouTube channel not even as a kind of personal branding strategy, but really just a communication
offload stuff I didn't want to do. Yeah.
For your clients.
Yeah, that's it. So kind of go, why are you paying somebody thousands of dollars to help you with whatever, like a SWOT analysis, or like how do you craft an insight platform, or once you have a couple of ideas, how do you quickly prototype them? You can do this yourself. There's videos online that do it. What I notice is that a lot of the people, at least in kind of in my area, what I do around innovation on YouTube, like amazing speakers with much more experience than me, really good thinking there, but just either poorly shot or just really boring. So really good content, but just kind of, I'm not going to watch 23 minutes of this. I kind of took my experience of running more than 100 innovation projects over 30 countries, and then combined that with kind of cool YouTube-y style. So what are skateboarders doing? So that's why I explain things using my cats and a cupcake, and I have like cuts in between. I play music. It's a little bit different. It's more lighthearted. It's not that businessy, but it did not start as a marketing tool. It wasn't like, here's how interesting I am. It was more of a, I don't want to do this stuff, so here's a video. Why don't you do it yourself? You want more? You want more? Okay, but I don't work for free. I don't do discounts. I don't work for free. Here's the free stuff. That's all. My content's free. You want to work with me? Cool. I charge for that. And I don't do a workshop. I want to work on something meaty.
What I love about that, and I just have to highlight it, that what you do could be labeled as lead magnet and all these kind of business funnel thingies. And the way how you describe it is just so genuine. Because you signal, okay, you care for your potential clients and even those who wouldn't have the funds to hire you. So you care so deeply that, okay, you recorded a video or you point them at the right direction and you know your value and what you're worth. So you know exactly, okay, this kind of stuff, it bores me. I'm not running the hundreds, thousands brainstorming session. But if you have something interesting coming out of that, then hire me.
Yeah. It's not even that it's boring. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy all of them. I love sitting in a room with, honestly, the best brainstorms, honestly, with like a beer and a glass of wine, a bit of music. Like if you just get the right scene, you can get people in that zone. I love doing that. I don't think people should spend a lot of money on it. Not always. I mean, there's a time and a place. If they just want, I don't know, like that's just kind of how it started. It wasn't even that I didn't want to do them. It's more about, I don't think you should. I don't think you should spend a lot of budget on this kind of stuff. I think you can do this yourself. And here's a video breaking down around how I would do that. That's it.
Love that. And fast forward. So now you're building kind of a YouTube channel, and it's just awesome to watch. So I advise all
very slowly. It's like, oh, one.
Yes.
It's a marathon.
With the podcast, it's been the same, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, someone listened to my show who's
left a
close
review.
family member, right?
Exactly.
And now, 167 as we record today. I think you'll be 177, maybe.
Fantastic. 77. Yeah. I was born in 1977, so that helps.
Oh, so let me make sure that it's going to be episode 177.
Fantastic.
So what are you doing to actually get to your audio? What makes a good YouTube channel? Because, so for instance, we're recording this, so those who don't like the audio, hop over to YouTube. You can watch us speaking. Yay. And I always tell my guests, I hope you don't mind that I'm also posting the video on YouTube, and don't worry, nobody watches it anyway.
Oh, that is not true. Okay, I'm going to get into that one right away. Nobody watches it anyway. I tell people this all the time. When people come to me and they say, I want to create some YouTube videos or something on LinkedIn, but what if I create something and I look really stupid and nobody watches it? And I always tell them, nobody will. Nobody's going to watch your shit. Trust me. And then they go like, oh my God, but that's, I thought you were supposed to motivate me. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not a motivator too. Don't worry about that. Like just focus on the content. I enjoy doing it. I love creating the videos. So I'm not that worried about people watching it or not. What I hope is that the 3 people who do watch it get something out of it. And if that means a little break during the day, or gives them a clever little model that they can throw out, or a little story they can tell at the next party, that works for me. Would I love YouTube to be so my goal is to get YouTube to a point where it pays for my rent. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's kind of what I want to get to. And I'm very far off, just so you know. It's a great tool, and it's one of these things it's like seeds you plant. And so for the people listening, I've been on it since about October 2017. So that's almost 5 years, 4.5 years. And it's about 30 hours a week. So my 5-minute video takes me about 15 hours to put together, because I'm very heavy on the editing. Do I have to do that? No. Do I enjoy doing that? Yes. I have very useless B-roll, dad jokes, pointless transitions, music. And I put a lot of time and effort into it. It's my little craft. It's my thing. Some people play guitar. My girlfriend is into pole dancing. So people like to go for long walks or reading. I like to create videos. So that's one. So that already makes the task of it so much easier, and it takes the pressure off. People need to watch it. I don't care that much. I really don't care that much. That really helps. It's now slowly getting to a point where I can use it as a bit of a marketing tool. Or even though I'm not that deliberate with it, I think it's helping that people see some of the content. And at the end of the day, people, you must have heard this before. People work with people know, like, trust, right? So they see your videos pop up a couple of times, go, oh, it's the guy with the little creative videos. Okay, they see you a couple of times. They didn't know you. Oh, that's Joeri. He's the Dutch guy, is the magic sauce. If you've given them a smile on their face, or maybe that story they can tell, they might trust you to do something. So then the next time something comes up, you go, we want somebody who's a bit more creative, somebody who's got, who's willing to go against the grain a bit. Who do we know? There you go. But I haven't positioned it that way per se. It's just a really slow growth
Thank you.
way.
Thank you for sharing that, and also being so transparent about the time. And it makes total sense. So the amount of time and money that I spend on the podcast, for me, yes, it is kind of marketing. And I started as a marketing machine, less so for myself than for the industry, because I thought, if I want to run a facilitation business and facilitation workshops have a bad reputation, I better do something against that.
There's a good motive to do that. It's a perfect motive.
Yeah, now it's just like, it's such a good way to create new content, to get new ideas, to connect to new people, to have awesome conversations. Would I do it with the same kind of love and intensity and invest the same amount of money? Because I used to edit my podcast myself, and I used to spend the 15 hours per week on just podcasting.
Yep.
Now I've outsourced all of that so that I'm basically spending an average monthly salary on my podcast. But it's more than a hobby.
It is. Well, I mean, it is a started off as something very functional for me. If it turns into something else cool, if not, that's fine as well. Like, I don't call myself a YouTuber. I say that sometimes jokingly. I'm not really. I just have a YouTube. I have a business that's been around for almost a decade and survived 2 crises. And YouTube is one of the extensions of the magic sauce. That's what it is. It's not my identity. I don't and maybe this comes with age. I don't attach like, oh my God, somebody didn't like the video. Okay.
Which is actually good, because then you have less kind of dead end clients writing proposals and then find out actually it doesn't stick.
And I don't even write proposals. Little fun fact for you people listening to this one. I've not done proposals for a long time. If somebody wants a proposal, I charge royally for that. I charge enough for that they will go, you know what, we don't need a proposal. And I go, that's right. We're going to have a conversation. And if we have an agreement, I'll send you a document. Like, we don't need a 80-page breakdown of what and how. Again, don't get into the how, get into the what and why. But what I do, little fun tip for you. I use something called Loom. Loom is just a screen recording. LOOM, look it up. There's a free version, paid version. Let's say that Miriam comes to me. Miriam has a request. She wants some help on building a podcast, whatever it is. Probably Miriam and I will have a conversation. Kind of go, what do you want? By when? What this, etc. Then all I do, rather than a proposal, I usually follow up with a video. I send somebody a 3 to 5 minute Loom video. And in that video, I'll go, hey Miriam, thank you for meeting with me on Tuesday, and thank you for sharing your challenges on the podcast. What I heard from you is this, and this. And I kind of play back a bit what I heard. It sounds to me, and again, I'm not making any real conclusions yet. I'm kind of go, it sounds to me like this seems a bigger problem than that. So what I'm doing is I'm showing some of my thinking. I don't show them what I think. I show them how I think through video, which is almost impossible. To me, it's not possible to do in a document. I find it very hard. It becomes a very long document. So you can talk people through it. I create a couple of slides, a couple of pictures. Don't overcomplicate it. I go, you talked about A, B, and C. It sounds to me the only way to get to B is if we do A and C first. So it shows them how I think. If you want to help yourself sell, it does a couple of things. It shows them how you think. It shows them so you're on video, bit of a talking head, so they get used to how you speak. You can sell yourself there, even if you're not comfortable with yourself on video. Remember, it's not about you, it's about what you share. So that little, here's what we heard, and then I always go with a kind of a call to action, kind of go, so here's what we could do, right? You talk about A, B, and C. I don't know enough about B and C yet, but why don't we do something on A? I've got this, or I've got a product there, or I've got a solution there. If this is of interest to you, give me a call. I'm around all day tomorrow. I'll just reply to this email and I'll book us in. And that might be a scoping session. That might be a deeper bit of an inspiration session, paid, yeah, but something like that. Do it through video. The amount of just kind of positive feedback I've gotten on that one is amazing. First of all, Loom does not send a video that's 80 MB, it sends a link. So they can just click on the link, they can watch the video anywhere they are. What's up? You have an idea? Dum, dum, dum.
No, your idea is just brilliant.
Yeah, yes, so I do.
They can click on the link. You can even, if you're a facilitator that is honest, it's authentic, they see you.
Yep.
I think by now, after 2 years pandemic, every facilitator feels comfortable behind the camera, talking to the void, and they can even then guide them through some mirror whiteboards whatsoever to actually show snippets of their work, instead of adding a million attachments. So hooray to that. Thank you for sharing. And with Loom, you can even create the captions.
Yes.
So that if they don't have sound, you don't put, and you can fast forward to double the speech.
And you can give a thumbs up. You can ask a question. There's a comment box underneath. It's great. Loom is one tool. There's other tools that do that, but I like it because it's really simple. And I said, and I was going to add one thing. If you are going to do it, just remember this. It's not about you. It's too many people feel they need to sound clever. And again, I've done this because like, oh, hi, my name is Joeri and I'm really clever. I went to the University of Innovation. I've done innovation stuff. I'm really good in innovation because I wasn't that confident. So it's not about you. Focus on them. Create a fun video. Look at what you're watching on YouTube. The reality is the videos you watch on YouTube, they're probably nice and pacey. They're a bit fun. They focus on you. They don't spend 20 minutes waffling about what awards they got. Nobody cares. Focus on them and their problem. And you don't have the solution. You kind of go, this is what I heard, and I'd like to have a follow-up conversation with you on that one. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, especially in the facilitation, even in the consulting business, at the end of the day, we're all using the same tools, but it's about how we show up, our personality, our presence, and how we think. So the better we can show that and give them a glimpse into our brains and hearts, the better.
It's not about a workshop. So just say, we're going to bring your people together. We need to find this solution. Maybe it's a workshop. Maybe it's just a bit of research you need to outsource. Who knows?
Yeah. What's your number one facilitation challenge?
My number one facilitation challenge? I don't know whether this is a good one. It's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, and I don't have any answers, just something I put on my mind. There's a whole new generation coming. Again, I sound a bit like a boomer right now, like, oh, these young kids nowadays. But they have learned things in different ways. They're digitally more native. They seem to be more distracted. There's all these kind of labels we hang on to them, rightfully or wrongfully. I wonder whether the practice of facilitation has adjusted or adopted or learned enough to meet this new wave. And I have a feeling, I don't know, this is really like buckets of salt here. I have a feeling that a lot of the old ways of facilitation are not going to fly, and probably aren't flying anymore, because unfortunately, a lot of people I know in facilitation hang on to models and examples and stories that they've been using for 15 years. It's time to get off your lazy ass and to start going, is my stuff still relevant? What can I change? I don't think that's a challenge, but it's a bit of, maybe it is a challenge. Maybe it is a bit too comfortable in your own little sofa. I think people need to get up. And I think the ones who do get up and start asking some new questions, adopting new tools, having new and different conversations, those are the ones that are going to win. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not. I don't know. That's what I think. Just a thought.
And yeah, it could make sense. I guess that the disruption with Zoom already played a little bit towards this direction, that everyone had to,
for sure,
to kind of update their own systems. And your personal challenge when you facilitate?
Oh, well, I've got many. I'm thinking of one right now. I'm getting better because I get so excited about the work that I do. So, for instance, storytelling. People love stories, but very often I will tell too many stories. What that means, of course, they're fun to hear, but it's kind of like, they got it. Like, you land at the point with the one story, the rest is like cream on top, and it's fun. But in the spirit of time and how much information can go in, sometimes I need to dial it back down, because I can go quite fast and kind of go, oh, let me tell you about we work with Audi, we did this, and then with Facebook and whatever. And yeah, dialing some of the enthusiasm down. There's a good time for it, and I think that's what a YouTube channel is good for. It's got like, here's a story about this, here's a story about that. Sometimes in the workshop I get a bit carried away. I get like that uncle that's starting to show his record collection. Oh, let me tell you, when I first saw Led Zeppelin in 1970, I get a bit like that. I get excited, and I think that can be a challenge, because that's just one of the challenges. That's get a bit too excited.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a question that I recently added as one of my questions to ask all the guests. I find it extremely interesting to hear challenges from very seasoned experts in the field. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a curse of knowledge, isn't it? You get to a point where you know quite a bit about something, even though, like, the more you know, the less you think you know, kind of thing. But it comes out in those moments. Sometimes I might go a bit too fast, but like, okay, just dial this back down a bit. They haven't done this a million times. For you, it's very normal and very quick to just jump in and do something.
Yeah, I think the other trap, and then telling a lot of stories, is actually the better outcome. The other trap is getting cynical. Oh yeah, you're not alone with this problem. Everyone feels the same. So don't make a big fuss out of it. And this can be very frustrating and even dismissive for a group. So
I work with somebody who used to do that. I mean, maybe she still does. I haven't worked there for a couple of years, but a long time ago, I worked with somebody who is very smart, very experienced, but that would be your default. Whatever would come up, be like, I've seen this before. It's not going to work. When I worked there, like we did study 10 years ago. It's not, and that cynicism would just be this detrimental, because I was trying to like fan this little flame of confidence amongst people to make something work. And she would just throw a bucket of water over it. Kind of, the metaphorical bucket, which didn't really work. You have to watch out for that cynicism. I'm cynical in different ways. I always like to say I'm a bit more curmudgeonly, a bit more bitter about certain things. I like to believe that in my case it comes out as a rather than saying it won't work, it's more this kind of, and here's why this never works. So let me tell you what we're going to do. So I like to turn it into something very positive at the end. But there's a bit of like, yeah, I've done this a couple of times, and this is why you'll fail. But then you end that with, and this is why most fail. So let's do this then. At least I like to come up with solutions. So
yeah.
I hope. I mean, I need to ask.
That's how you come across. That's how I see you.
I'll ask for some feedback of my clients next time. So
awesome. Wow. Thank you. Lots of sprinkles of magic sauce in this episode.
Well, thank you for letting me indulge. I mean, it's really a passion. It's not a job. To me, it's not a job. I could have done other stuff, right? So it's definitely something I love doing. And back to your original question, I don't think I'm a facilitator. I think I'm just a person who's done some interesting work with some really cool companies, and I get to facilitate those conversations with other people. I'm not a facilitator. I'm not a YouTuber. I create YouTube videos. I don't know whether that matters. I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be labeled,
And that's what I love about the question.
It's a great question.
It gets everyone to think, okay, do I call myself a facilitator in the first place? Or when was the moment that I started? And these pull out really interesting stories.
Interesting. Because when you asked, I saw it before in your notes as well. Yeah, I don't think I ever started calling myself that way. But I remember having to look for the translation. And I didn't quite understand what facilitation was then yet. This is like 20 years ago. They're just labels.
Yeah. In German, there's not even a word for facilitator. They call it moderator, which is
not really either, right? Yeah, exactly. That's why. But I mean, that's why maybe we shouldn't use these labels, because they quickly put people in something. In a group, for a lot of people, facilitator means trainer. So your output is learning. That to me is very different from business results.
Yes.
No better or worse. It's just very different. Some people in business and politics, they connect people. You would call that a facilitator. You facilitate a treaty between different parties, right? So it depends what you call it, but very often people have a label.
Yeah. But then, facilitator might sound better than lobbyist.
That is true. Lobbyist always sounds a bit dodgy, if you ask me, but that's just me.
Is there anything that we have not covered that you wanted to share?
There's heaps of things we haven't covered, but I like to keep things a little bit more open. Same with idea sessions. Don't work till you have all the ideas out. You kind of want to leave about 20% in the tank. Keeps people kind of going. So we don't have to have all the answers. I just think it's awesome that you've had me on here. And you got me to think about a lot of these things, because I don't think we're often, and all of us, I don't think we're that conscious of what we do and how we do things and why we do things. And it's through conversations like this that gets us to think as well. So for people listening, like, you think for yourself, again, this is just my experience. I'm no means an expert or in anything. I've just done a couple of things like you have, and I kind of learn along the way. And that's kind of a commitment I have, which is keep learning and keep finding ways to make things a bit better and a bit more fun. Enjoy the ride. I mean, it could be over one day, so it will be over one day, just don't know when. So just enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wunderbar. Thank you.
That's the end of the podcast jingle.